Cashier's secret. The fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead as James Mitchell adjusted his navy blue tie and walked through the automatic doors of Franklin's Market. To everyone around him, he was just another customer in an expensive suit. But James held a secret that would have surprised every person in that store. He was the chief financial officer of Franklin's Market chain, one of the largest grocery retailers in the country. Today, like many days over the past month, he had come to this particular store not for a board meeting or an inspection, but to observe, to really see what happened when the corporate executives weren't watching. James had built his career on numbers and spreadsheets, but lately he felt disconnected from the people those numbers represented. His employees, his customers, the real heart of the business his grandfather had started 60 years ago. The store buzzed with quiet activity. Shopping carts rolled across polished floors. Children pointed excitedly at colorful cereal boxes. Elderly couples moved slowly through the produce section, carefully selecting their vegetables. But James's attention focused on one particular checkout lane, Lane 7, where a young woman named Sarah worked with a patience and kindness that had caught his eye weeks ago. Sarah Williams was 26 years old, though the weight of responsibility made her seem older. Her blonde hair was always neatly pulled back in a low bun, and she wore her red and white Franklin's uniform with quiet pride. What struck James most was how she interacted with every customer as if they were the most important person in her day. He had watched her help an elderly man count out exact change without a trace of impatience. He had seen her crouch down to speak at eye level with nervous children, making them giggle with gentle jokes. She remembered regular customers' names and asked about their families. Today, James positioned himself near the magazine rack where he could observe Lane 7 without being obvious. The lunch rush was beginning, and most employees would soon take their breaks and shifts. But as 12:30 approached, Sarah remained at her register. James frowned slightly. Company policy required all employees to take a 30-minute lunch break. He made a mental note to speak with the store manager about proper scheduling. 12:45. Sarah quietly called over her supervisor. James couldn't hear the conversation, but he saw Sarah shake her head when offered something. The supervisor looked concerned but nodded and walked away. Sarah stayed at her register. James felt a knot form in his stomach. He had seen this pattern for 3 weeks now. Every day, Sarah skipped her lunch break. Every day, she worked straight through her shift with just a few sips of water and perhaps a small snack from her purse. He needed to understand why. The next day, James arrived earlier and positioned himself with a clearer view. At exactly 12:15, he saw something that made his heart skip a beat a little. A girl with golden curls bouncing around her shoulders came running into the store. She wore a pale yellow dress that had seen better days, but her smile was radiant as she spotted Sarah. "Mummy," the child called out, though she kept her voice to a whisper. Sarah's entire demeanor transformed. The professional mask melted away, replaced by pure maternal love. She quickly looked around, then lifted the little girl over the counter for a quick hug. James watched as Sarah reached into her purse and pulled out a small paper bag. She handed it to her daughter along with a juice box. The little girl's eyes lit up with delight. "Thank you, Mummy," the child whispered, clutching the bag tightly. "Eat every bite, Emma," Sarah whispered back. "And remember, this is our secret, okay?" Emma nodded solemnly, gave her mother one more quick hug, and scampered toward a quiet corner of the store where she settled down to eat her lunch. James felt his throat tighten with emotion. He understood now. Sarah wasn't just skipping lunch. She was giving her lunch to her daughter. Over the following days, James learned more by careful observation. Emma was 4 years old. The daycare center was closed for renovations, leaving Sarah without childcare. Rather than miss work, she had been bringing Emma to the store, keeping her hidden and quiet. The little girl would spend her days tucked away in corners, drawing with crayons on the backs of receipt paper, reading picture books from the magazine aisle, and waiting patiently for her mother's lunch break when she could finally eat. Sarah never ate during those lunch breaks. Instead, she spent the precious 30 minutes playing with Emma, helping her color, reading to her, giving her the attention and love that a 4-year-old needed. Then Sarah would return to work, and Emma would disappear back into her quiet corners, invisible to management and most customers. James realized that Sarah was choosing between feeding herself and feeding her daughter, and like any loving mother, it wasn't really a choice at all. On a Thursday afternoon, James made his decision. He couldn't stand by and watch anymore. He approached Lane 7 during a quiet moment, his heart pounding. Sarah looked up with her professional smile. "Good afternoon, sir. Did you find everything you needed today?" "Actually," James said gently, "I was hoping to speak with you about something." Sarah's smile faltered slightly. Had she been discovered? "I've noticed you have a little helper in the store," James continued softly. Sarah's face went pale. "Please," she whispered. "I know it's against policy, but my daycare closed and I can't afford to miss work." "I can explain, Sarah," James interrupted gently. "My name is James Mitchell. I'm the CFO of Franklin's Market." The color drained completely from Sarah's face. "I'm not here to fire you," James said quickly. "I'm here because I've been watching you for weeks, and I've never seen an employee who cares. more about our customers or works harder than you do?" Sarah stared at him in shock. "Also know you've been giving your lunch to your daughter every day." Tears began to well up in Sarah's eyes. "Starting Monday," James continued, "Franklin's Market is launching a new program, on-site childcare for employees during emergency situations. Emma will be our first participant. We're also implementing a new employee meal program, full lunches paid for by the company." Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. "I don't understand. You've shown me what this company should be about," James said. "Taking care of our people so they can take care of our customers. Emma's going to have a proper place to play and learn, and you're going to have proper meals. Both of you are." As if summoned by the mention of her name, Emma peeked around a display of cereal boxes. Her golden curls caught the fluorescent light as she looked curiously at the man talking to her. Mother. James knelt down to Emma's level. "Hi there, Emma. I'm James. I work with your mummy." Emma smiled shyly and took a small step closer. "How would you like to have a special playroom here at the store, with toys and books and other children to play with?" Emma's eyes grew wide with excitement. She looked at her mother, who was crying openly now. "Is that okay, Mummy?" Sarah could only nod, overwhelmed by the kindness of this stranger who had seen their struggle and chosen to help, rather than punish. From that day forward, Franklin's Market became more than just a grocery store. It became a place where employees were truly valued, where families were supported, and where the simple act of caring created something beautiful. And James learned that the most important numbers in business weren't always found on spreadsheets. Sometimes they were found in a mother's love, a child's smile, and the quiet dignity of people doing their best with what they had. The fluorescent lights continued to hum overhead, but now they illuminated something different. Not just a store, but a community where everyone had enough to eat, and everyone had a place to belong.